Welcome to Backpage Blues. I'm joined by Charlie the Hurricane Skillen from the Mail Online. You may notice that he's sporting a bit of a black eye. I believe that was something to do with a trip to Estonia.
Slovakia.
Slovakia.
It's not a black eye, mate. It's just a little cut, all right?
This is why he's called the Hurricane. I'm sure that now a lot of people ask, why do you call him the Hurricane? For reasons like this. Because he goes to Eastern Europe, comes back with a black eye.
There's nothing untoward.
But
promise.
We're in an international break now, so we can kind of have a look back as to the first 7 games, just have a think about how it's going, but also look forward. How does this first 7 games shape our future and our future under Conte? You seem to think there's going to be some big squad changes coming in.
I do. I think Conte has been pretty surprised how poor he thinks the squad is. I think the results against Liverpool and Arsenal in quick succession really kind of took everyone aback at the club. Quite rightly too. I think they took the fans aback. Certainly took me aback. I think Conte, everything we're hearing out of the Chelsea training ground is Conte believes that this squad, which, let's face it, is basically the same squad that won the league 2 years ago, they're never going to get back to that form. This group of players. Not that some of them won't, and some of them won't survive, and some of them won't be a big part of Chelsea's
one
future.
unit, it needs reinforcing.
It needs refreshing. I mean, it's good news in one way, because obviously we'll get to see that. The real frustrating thing for me is why that wasn't made clear in the summer.
Yeah.
I think Conte made that clear in the summer, and I think out of his original targets, the only one that we actually got was Kante. The thought is that Batshuayi was a kind of club Emanalo signing, one that we were tracking for a while, rather than a Conte player. I'm not saying there's anything hugely wrong with that, and we shouldn't want those players, we shouldn't sign those players. But in terms of Conte's vision and what he wants, I'm not sure he was on that list, and obviously we said that at the time.
And it's the defence, so that's where it really stands out.
And the defence, all summer we talked about the signings that Conte wanted. We ended up with, two decent signings in Alonso and Luiz, but they were deadline day panic signings because we were like,
not on our manager's wish list.
Not on our
We
manager's
know what
wish
the manager's
list.
wish list was.
It was Benucci, it was Koulibaly.
And it's John Stones from the year before.
It was John Stones from the year before.
Sad to see him doing so well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a bit of a pain. But, I think that's what Conte wanted, and obviously he didn't quite get it. It's the second summer in succession we've seen a manager not get what they want in the transfer market. And Abramovich has met with Conte at Cobham in the week following the Arsenal game, and he hasn't interacted with the players at all, but he's been having lunch with Conte to find out what he needs and what he wants in Chelsea. I mean, we've said this so many times and it's not turned out to be true, but everything we're hearing at the minute suggests that Chelsea are willing to give Conte time to refresh the squad as he sees fit.
Yeah, I can't even countenance that sort of chat, to be honest. Even on this, I really can't. Of course, we're 7 games in. I think things are going relatively well anyway.
Things are going fine. Look, we are equal pegging with Man United.
Yeah.
I know everyone's kind of been digging them out, but it's all still to play for. But it's just, I think the fact that the nature of the losses against Arsenal and Liverpool, obviously two clubs that we aspire to be better than, firstly, but certainly 2 rivals that we look to be.
I think the thing is,
be in the same kind of ballpark.
There has to be an element of realism to these conversations, and I think that our dream at the beginning of this season is to get into the top 4. We finished 10th last year, so let's not go too big.
Yeah,
top 4 would be ideal. It'd be great, and I think that we're pretty much on course today. We need a little bit of improvement, but we're averaging nearly 2 points a game. 2 points a game should get you there.
I think maybe on course to do it is a little optimistic in terms of if everything stays the same, we'll be top 4. I think that's a tiny little bit optimistic, but I completely agree with you. A little few tweaks here and there, a good run of form, and I think we'll be there or thereabouts. I don't think we're in crisis mode at all.
We'll know much more after the next 2 games. 2 massive games coming up.
Well, the Man United game's absolutely huge, isn't it?
And then the little matter of the champions at home first.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. We've already beaten them, haven't we?
Yeah.
No, but they are 2 massive games. I'm particularly looking at the United game just because we are level pegging with them. They have spent so much money. They're spending that money to be in the top 4. Absolutely no question. Obviously, they probably had designs on winning the league. Don't really see that happening anymore. If anyone wants to scroll back to about 3 months ago, I said they were definitely going to win the league. But please don't. And yeah, you're completely right. It's 2 massive games that we'll know a lot more after. If we're here, in 3 weeks' time after 2 losses, I think we'll be having these conversations again and talking about something vastly different.
If we take 4 points, 6 points out of those 2 games,
it's looking okay. No, and don't get me wrong. Not for 1 minute do I think Conte is even 1% close to going. This is more about identifying what he needs to make a success.
And do you think part of his plan and his vision for success is going to be reverting to the three at the back that did him so well, with Italy and with Juventus?
Well, that's what we saw at Hull, isn't it? I think, yes. I think
even when John Terry's fit?
Yeah, I mean, my worry for John Terry at the minute is not so much the knocks he gets, but it takes him so long to get back from these knocks. So that's kind of the worrying thing. I mean, look, and, everyone knows, I still think Terry's Chelsea's best defender. I still think Chelsea need to, if Terry's fit, Terry needs to play.
Yeah.
But, we've got to stop planning for the future with him in mind. Because that future is... This process obviously should have started 3-4 years ago and clearly didn't.
But do you like the thought of John Terry being at the back in a back three? I'm not sure I'm
not convinced, but Terry is so important to the way the team plays.
Important enough to change the formation to go back to a back four?
No, but you can compensate for him in a back three with the other personnel. You can use the pace of Luiz. You can use the pace of Zuma. Okay. You can have Terry as kind of the
like
the
a
first
sweeper.
Yeah, the first line of attack, and then you've got the pace to compensate for him, and then obviously the fullbacks as well.
And they've both looked very good, haven't they? Victor Moses did very well against Hull, and I thought Marcos Alonso's looked good whenever he's been given an opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, my main worry is that if anyone else can really fulfil those roles. I think Cesar Azpilicueta could potentially do it on either side.
Yes.
I'm not really sure Pedro is going to cut the mustard there.
No,
if I'm honest,
I don't think that's his position. I don't think he's ever going to be that kind of player.
No. He's not. So I worry about the personnel, whether we have that. Everything we're hearing suggests that Chelsea will buy in January.
Right.
I mean, for me,
anyone in particular?
They'll go back in for the summer targets.
The likes of Koulibaly again?
Possibly, but I can't really see them getting
It's even harder. It's even harder in midway through a season.
I can't really see getting those targets. Michael Keane, I think, is the one to watch. Obviously, just got in the England squad this week.
Yeah.
Everything we're hearing suggests that Chelsea are kind of thinking about a £25 million bid. So I think that's going to be the one to watch. But, again, it's this kind of... We're doing it after the fact. We're not preparing for anything, and suddenly, we're 6 or 7.
But that would be a good signing. I can't say that I've seen too much of Michael Keane. From what I've seen, I think he's good, but I couldn't pretend to have watched him consistently for a couple of years, which is what you want to have done when you're signing a player with this sort of money.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, you're not on the transfer board, are you?
No.
Much to my annoyance.
Yeah, but it would be the sort of signing that we should be making. Somebody for the future, who's English, who counts as homegrown.
Ben Gibson is another one, as I mentioned last week, that has been mentioned, exactly. But, I think the club are going to find it very difficult to do top-level business in January. That's always the case. The club know that. And I think they'll just be preparing for what they can. I think they'll be shaping the personnel of the squad gradually this season in terms of going three at the back. But, we'll just have to wait and see. Like you say, I think, put it this way, if we're here in 3 weeks with 6 points from those 2 games, Chelsea are in the top 4, no doubt.
Yes.
And the conversation becomes a whole lot rosier.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, and you've got Terry coming back, you've got Zuma coming back. I think you'll see a lot less of Ivanovic. I think you'll see a lot less of Cahill.
Good news. And more good news, Todd Keane back to full fitness.
Well, he's on the road to recovery, certainly. But the best news is he's got a new 3-year deal. Which is incredible commitment from the club, really. I mean, he's not 18, he's not 17, he's 23 now. He has been at Chelsea since the age of 5 or 6. His whole family of Chelsea fans. I think he'd be one that everyone would love to see make it. He played really well in the Dutch League last season, as well as in the Championship. Again, he's real struggle with injuries. He's got the same injury as Kurt Zouma. But we ran an interview with him at the Mail last week, and he doesn't want to go on loan again. And everything we're hearing at Chelsea is that he can be part of the first team squad later in the season. He's going to be back.
This season?
He's going to be back in training sort of 6 to 8 weeks. And I think the thing that really bodes in his favour, more than anything else, is the formation.
So going back to what you said earlier about who else can fill in for those wide berths.
Exactly.
This is the answer, isn't it?
Well, he by trade he is a very, very attacking fullback. So you'd think that he would make a solid option on the right. So I think it'd be great to see him make his debut this year.
God, that would be superb, wouldn't it?
Come on, Todd Keane.
Right, that brings us nicely onto our Q&A. I did it a bit differently this week. I did it via Instagram. So if you're not following us on Instagram, make sure you do. It's ChelseaFansChannel YT. I put a picture of us up and I asked for your questions, and we've got some really good ones. So thank you all very much for those. The first one comes in from Reggie CFC. Reggie wants an update on Tammy Abraham. Do you see Tammy Abraham? I would just like to point out as well, I haven't told Charlie any of these questions, so he's a surprise.
This can literally be anything.
This could be anything.
I hope they're all about Chelsea.
So Tammy Abraham.
Yes.
Reggie wants to know, do you see him starting for Chelsea next year?
No, I don't. Not every week, certainly. I think it would be... There definitely will be a conversation to be had. I think he's outperformed all expectations. He's been absolutely phenomenal.
They love him. I saw the Bristol fans basically rip down a hoarding to try and get at him to celebrate.
Nice.
Did you see? He scored.
Nice.
He scored and kind of celebrated in their end. The Bristol fans were so elated that they practically bulldozed their way through the hoarding to celebrate with him.
I'm going to watch him in a couple of weeks against QPR.
Are you really?
Yeah, in the Bristol City end.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
That'd be really good.
I think that he's done so well this season. For me, the next logical move is a Premier League loan. If that's with Bristol City, then all the better.
Yeah.
Because it means we'll get a nice day out in Bristol as well.
Yeah.
But no, I just think if we are where we want to be, then Diego Costa has been sensational this season. I think Diego Costa is Chelsea's starting striker next year. At least that's what I hope. And I think it would do Abraham a massive disservice to have him back
on our bench or whatever.
On our bench, third choice striker, which is what he'd probably be if you're looking at a young English striker that's still very raw, obviously absolutely tearing it up. But I mean, for me at the minute, anyway, I think that a Premier League loan is the next move.
Interesting. Cheers for your question, Reggie. The next question is, I believe, from Bill, but there's a few punctuation marks in amongst the Bill, but I believe that his name's probably that. He wants to know, do you see David Luiz playing as a defensive central midfielder when Terry's back from injury?
Potentially. From what we're hearing, Conte is not a huge fan of him at centre-half. I think he would be a very good complement to Kante in the middle. I've never seen midfielders David Luiz's position, despite what many people say. I still rate him as a central defender. I think that's where he should be playing. But I think for especially some of the bigger games, when you need that little bit more, grit in midfield, I think that it could be an option.
And if Nemanja Matic can't find form, David Luiz is somebody who could slot in there and do that role.
He'd do it differently, but it would be a similar
role,
physical, similar sort of thing. Yeah, I think he'd be he might be a much bigger handful than Nemanja Matic going forward as well.
Very true. Reese has a very interesting question. This is one that I wanted to ask. Charlie,
go on.
Apparently, Antonio Conte was in Italy watching Joe Hart. Have you heard about this?
No. I think this story came out of the Italian media. I think we're going a little bit far saying that Conte said of scouting him or whatever. I think that obviously we're pessimistic, should we say, over the future of Thibaut Courtois as a long-term Chelsea keeper.
Or optimistic.
Well, depending on your view. It's not one we've had a great deal concrete about. I can't see it at the minute. I don't think, no matter what Manchester City and Pep Guardiola think of Joe Hart, well, certainly what Pep Guardiola thinks of Joe Hart, I don't think Manchester City will be biting their hands off to sell Chelsea their homegrown English number one keeper.
That is very true. And our last question is from Rafi Haraki.
Yeah.
Wants to know what's going on with Cesc Fabregas.
Right, well, it's a conversation we've had all year. He obviously started against Arsenal and got taken off, didn't perform very well.
Harsh. I know he only lasted 55 minutes, but the team was so poor that day and the game was over before it had begun practically. What can he do?
No, I don't think he got taken off because he was the worst player. I think he got sacrificed for the system. Look, it's a really weird one, isn't it? Conte clearly doesn't rate him as one of his best midfielders. I'm edging towards thinking that he might be on the move in January. That's out of nothing concrete, and there's no kind of bids in for him. But even late in the transfer window,
he needs to be playing this, doesn't he? He was dropped by Spain recently.
Yeah, even late in the transfer window, and we're talking literally deadline day, AC Milan came in for him, and Chelsea just didn't quite have the personnel to say yes. I still think that Chelsea as a club wants Cesc Fabregas around, but I think if he's not in the manager's plans, which, let's face it, I mean, he's quite clearly not,
isn't, yeah.
then for him, he needs to move on, and I think it's probably best if he does.
Yeah.
But
it's sad, isn't it?
That is sad because I still think Chelsea's best team contains Fabregas.
I'd agree.
Because I think...
But not the best system, apparently.
I think without him, you lose a hell of a lot of creativity.
Agreed. Charlie, thank you so much for coming
in.
Mate. Guys, we really hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please click the subscribe button. And, get your questions in on this video, and we could be answering them next week. Go on, you blokes.
Come on, Chelsea.
Oh, so close.